Friends, welcome to Salt City Hoops once again. I am Mark Russell Pereira, running it to you solo once again on this here podcast feed. Wherever you're listening, watching, love to have you on board. Comments are always welcome. Always like to respond to any thoughts you have on any of the topics we talk about today. Drop them in. We'll respond to you and get a dialogue going. Because we got things to talk about the Utah Jazz. Did we tell you, or did we tell you that this team was going to be fun, enjoyable, competitive? There were going to be good things to watch each and every night, and even on a night like tonight, we're recording this right after the Blazers game loss at home. That even when this team is down 20 points. This is not some guaranteed blowout team that's going to get walked over. This is a team with players competing for minutes. This is a team with good players on it. This is a team that needs flexibility with lineups and roster construction and can deploy many different types of lineups out there. This is a well-coached team that is going to be putting its players in good spots to win basketball games. And yet there are inherent flaws built up and down the roster that we don't have to be concerned about, quote-unquote, winning too many basketball games so that we preserve our draft pick. Now, I do want to get into a little clever conversation about how many wins too many later on. But for now, if you haven't listened to my immediate post-game reaction from the Game 1 blowout against the playoff likely bound Los Angeles Clippers, the LA Clippers, then I would encourage you to do so, to hear my unvarnished immediately after the game thoughts. I happen to be at that game. Most of you know that I don't live in Utah, so being able to be at a home game was special, especially a home game like that one. However, we have 3 more games in the books, and while the Jazz sit at 2-2, the 2 losses were by a combined 3 points. Obviously, we have a blowout win against the Clippers and a runaway victory against the Suns that turned into an overtime win. Maybe we'll get into talking about that a little bit. But in general, this is what we told you. This is a fun, competitive basketball team. This is not like last year's Jazz. You would tune into last year pretty much from December onwards, thinking, I don't know who's going to suit up tonight, and I don't know if I care who suits up tonight for the Jazz. There's nothing worth watching. Like, maybe we'll have a Jordan Clarkson, Colin Sexton lineup with Cody Williams dribbling the ball off his foot and Keyonte George playing horrible and all these other things. And it just wasn't worth watching. John Collins is out there. Lauri Markkanen's injured. Walker Kessler he's not actually injured, but we're telling him to sit down because he's a good defensive player. Jazz weren't going to do that this year. The Jazz promised us that they were going to try, that they were going to run through the tape each and every night and make sure that injuries were not going to be flubbed or foibled, that this is a team that, hey, this is how the team is going to get better. We're going to see if the young players can play alongside the development of Lauri Markkanen and Walker Kessler and see what we have. But I'd be lying to you if the way the Jazz are competitive and fun right now is what I predicted. We have some new fun developments on this team that are I am so excited right now. If you're a Jazz fan, you must be thrilled with the trajectory of where this team is going a year, 2 years from now. There's one very open question mark right now with Ace Bailey. I want to talk about him a little later. After such a stunning, very encouraging preseason, he's had a very, very slow start to the season, but it's very, very easily explained away, in my opinion. So we'll talk about that. But the easiest way to kind of break this down for me and kind of do a weekly show or update you on the happenings about the Jazz if you haven't caught every game, or hopefully you have caught every game and you want to hear some additional thoughts, is just talk about individual players and things we're noticing, and also maybe a little bit about play style, not about the wins and losses themselves. So one thing that is immediately apparent to me as far as how the offense works is they are doing a version of the old Quinn Snyder advantage basketball. Now, not in the same offense remotely that Quinn Snyder's offense ran, where they were trying to figure out how to get guys in certain advantageous situations based off of certain on-ball movement in certain respects. But the off-ball movement of every non-ball handler on the roster, they're just flying around stuff all the time. And guys like Lauri Markkanen and Keyonte George have proven over the past couple years that they're just not very good with just having the ball from a standstill. And Keyonte George has made some great strides as a pure lead guard. We're going to talk about him in a minute, but it's still, I am always encouraged when guys like Lauri Markkanen, Keyonte George, and the rest of the roster, they're constantly catching the ball in some sort of immediately after a cut, or immediately after they came off of an off-ball screen, or immediately off of some other action, where they're not just like, hey, I'm going to give you the ball, and now the play is stopped, and now we're asking the player with the ball to just start something. Pure pick and roll is a way that players from a pure standstill can operate in offense, and the best guard tacticians or the best ball handling tacticians, that's how they prefer to play, maybe a little bit slower down kind of game. But if you have a team that is learning how to pass and learning how to facilitate, then getting them the ball while have immediately done something to force a switch without the ball, or they're getting the ball on the move, this makes things a little bit easier. It is very fatiguing to play that way. The Jazz don't care. So far, the Jazz are putting the pedal to the metal on these types of things. Now, one of the criticisms of the Jazz the past couple years, and Keyonte George was a big reason for this, but he's not the only one, the Jazz took forever to get into the flow of their offense. They're still not very fast, but there is a little bit more urgency into getting into the first actions of the offense. But I'm noticing that the second, third, and if you even get there, the fourth actions, they're all happening way, way faster. The entire offense is a little bit more juiced and elevated. A few more pieces to note here on how this offense is kind of structured and what they're doing with it. The big men are passing, and it's not just what we talked about preseason of, oh, Filipowski's got some passing juice when he's dribbling the basketball, or Yusuf Nurkic has a triple-double to his name. He likes to pass and facilitate a little bit. No, we are asking, and we are making it the capital R responsibility of guys like Nurkic, Filipowski, and a giant exclamation point around Walker Kessler to be facilitators with the basketball. We called out Walker Kessler in his one preseason game having a truckload of assists. That hasn't slowed down, guys. So he averaged 1.7 assists last year, 0.9 the year before that, and 0.9 again the year before that. So in 30 minutes a game last year, he averaged 1.7 assists. He's at 3.3 right now. Like, over 3 assists is a legitimately hub kind of big man kind of person. That's not Nikola Jokic, but Jokic is a ball handler. He is the primary facilitator of the offense. If you got your starting center averaging over 3 assists, ooh, man, what is happening there with that offense? And Walker Kessler's doing these split cut bounce pass dimes to cutting Keyonte George across the middle. The big to big passes. The Jazz are starting Filipowski, Kessler, and Lauri Markkanen, all three together. And a lot of times we think about big to big passing as like interior passes, like right underneath the rim. Oh no, they're doing overarching passes where Walker Kessler's tossing the ball over 3 people over to Lauri Markkanen for 3. Lauri Markkanen just coming off of some sort of off-ball screen, I'm sure. So, the facilitation out of the big men is intentional, and they're driving a lot of offense through that, and it's confusing the hell out of defenses. So far, the defenses that Utah has played have not been prepared for that. Portland was a little more prepared for that tonight. Their personnel suits well for gumming up random things, and they forced I think 20 plus turnovers today. Utah's a very turnover prone team, but Portland I think did a good job of forcing Utah into making dumb mistakes from players who aren't used to making a lot of passes. And we had if I look at, I think Walker Kessler had 3 turnovers tonight. And Walker Kessler, I mean, he's averaging 3.3 assists, which is great. He's also averaging 3.3 turnovers. In the loss against the Kings, he had 6 turnovers. However, I'm all for this. This is the type of loss you want. This is the type of season we want. grow Walker Kessler into a new type of player, take the foibles along the way. But the offense is a top 5 offense because of all this other pressure that they're doing. And if you have the threat of these Filipowski, Nurkic, and Kessler facilitation, it's opening up so much more around the offense because of what we harped on preseason before this season even started, that this team doesn't have any passers. There's so few passers on this team. We can't trust Walt Clayton. At the time, we couldn't trust Keyonte George for anything. I'm starting to trust Keyonte George a lot more these days. But before the season, we said, well, I don't know where the passing is going to come from. So you're going to end up with a worse than 25th ranked offense, in my opinion, before the season, because there were just going to be so many games, so many possessions, so many full quarters where the offense just looks like shit because no pass. Maybe the few point guards you have aren't playing, and now you're left with Svi Mikhailuk as your best passer on the team. Like there were going to be many games like that. However, we are absolutely putting a lot of responsibility on the big man of this team, and they're absolutely passing and making a go at it. Lauri Markkanen's averaging 3 assists per game. He's not the 3 guys that I just mentioned. They're not alone in this whole big man passing responsibility here. Lauri Markkanen's career high in assists was 2 years ago. 2.0 assists per game. He's up to 3.0 assists per game. Well, also, by the way, he's averaging 35 points a game. Had a 51 points against the Suns. Over 40 in regulation. He got to 51 in overtime, but over 40 in regulation, which is also close to a career high for his regulation career high. So, if you're not going to have traditional passing in spades, you got to find a way to get guys just feeling like, hey, this play is designed for me to make this pass from an unusual position. Really setting guys up and empowering players who aren't used to passing this much to say, that's an assist if you just make this pass. I have a feeling that this is a lot of great Will Hardy coaching to really shoot right out of the gate. There's going to be some struggles coming in when Utah starts getting scouted. And I think Portland did a lot of that tonight. I think Portland predicted a lot of how Lauri Markkanen likes to get the ball, and they have the personnel in Drew Holiday and Tamani Kamara to block Lauri Markkanen from doing the things he likes to do to get the ball. And the players who are trying to get him the ball are sometimes these big men who like to make passes. Nurkic had like a quadrillion turnovers tonight, as one example. So that's an interesting thing I'm noticing about. Those are a couple interesting things I'm noticing about the offense. Is just the pace at which the possessions are happening, a little bit quicker, a little bit snappier. The empowerment of people across the lineup, especially the big men, to make unusual and interesting passes that we haven't seen before. And the offensive success, we'll talk about the defense in a minute if we get to it. But the offensive success, the other things we can notice are just the individual player improvements. And I am stunned. I sit here stunned. After the Clippers game, you can think, hey, anything can happen in one game. We've seen blowouts from a lot of different sources. Love the look of the offense. Players were playing great. They had a lot of energy. Game 1, young team playing against an old team. It happens. But I am stunned out of what we're seeing out of both Lauri Markkanen and Keyonte George. Perhaps I'm not flabbergasted by Lauri Markkanen as much as I am with Keyonte George. With Keyonte, 1 game, 2 games, 3 games, now 4 games, he has been a very, very in control lead guard. 9 assists against the Clippers, 10 assists against the Kings, 10 assists against Phoenix, 8 assists tonight against Portland. A lot of turnovers, but with that many assists, the assist to turnover ratio is not offensive. 9.7 assists per game to 3.7 turnovers per game. 6 turnovers tonight against Portland. Again, they were Tamani Kamara and Drew Holiday were, and Blake Wesley, a quality defensive point guard, were hounding him the full 94 feet. He got tired, had a couple bad turnovers. I just don't have a problem with how he's performing on the turnover front because his passing is terrific. What is Keyonte George doing? How is he getting this many assists? He's not taking the first easy option. He's coming off a screen or he's getting the ball in an advantageous situation and he's not immediately thinking, jack the shot up. He has broken through the first learning of a lead ball handler, which is if I take this advantage and press on it and do something a little more aggressive, I'm going to open up something even better, either for myself, but more very likely for a teammate. And he is so patient with how he's probing into the paint, or understand. He has a lot better chemistry with Kessler and Markkanen, I found, as far as like kind of when they're going to be open and getting them the ball in an exact spot where they're going to finish. The patience is so high right now. He's not jacking up these off the dribble threes. He's not jacking up these mid-rangers that are hopeless. In 4 games this year, I think I can count the number of shots that Keyonte has taken that I've had a problem with on maybe 1 or 2 hands. And he's taken a lot of... Let's be clear. He's taken a lot of shots. Let's count them here real quick. 30... He's taken 60 shots in 4 games. That's a lot of shots. To say nothing of the fact that he's 15 of 15. You heard me right. 15 of 15 tonight from the free throw line against Portland. 8 of 8, 7 of 7, Phoenix and Sacramento respectively. That's also a lot of free throws. That's a good, healthy amount of free throws. And 3 of 4 against the Clippers. That's a preposterous free throw rate, by the way. 33 of 34 from the free throw line to start the year in 4 games. Anyways, shot selection. Don't have a problem with him. Very, very rarely have I been like, I don't know, man, like you could have done a little bit more with that possession. You know, there was lots of time on the clock, or just felt like the way that the offense ran, like not enough players touched the ball. He is getting everyone involved, and if he ends up taking the shot, it's usually because I end up feeling after a possession when he shoots the ball like, that was a good idea. That was an acceptable result. And he's only shooting 42% from the field right now. The 3 ball is super not going in right now. He is not making his threes whatsoever. And at the end of the day, if we think about his career trajectory and at like the top tier version of Keyonte George, he's got to shoot better than 35% from 3, right? He's got to be a good 3-point shooter. So it's like a thing to monitor over the course of the season is how good his 3-point shooting actually is. But even with the atrocious 3-point shooting, he's shooting 42% from the field. You know why? Because he's making everything at the rim. And the reason he's making everything at the rim is not because, like, oh, he's getting lucky on contested shots. Yeah, he's had a few layups go in that were contested, but he's had a lot of great layup attempts where he has manipulated the defense or read some sort of Nurkic type of Gortat screen or something. He has attempted a lot of layups that are like, whew, that was open. That was a great manipulation to get yourself into a spot where you blew by a guy or you slowed yourself down to a point where you just got an easy bucket. Everything about his game is smooth. And it's damn near pleasant. He has 4 steals in 4 games, by the way. His defense has gone from an F-, to a D-. let's talk about the defense real quickly in general, because the transition defense is miserable. Gave up 136 points in regulation to Portland because the transition defense was so bad. The transition defense I've noticed this year, though, it's bad because of execution, not because of effort. In the past 2 years, the transition defense has been miserable because of effort. This year, there was a possession Portland had in transition that I think was very illustrative of the Jazz defensive woes this year, transition defense woes. Portland gets the ball off of a rebound. I actually think it might have even been a block shot. And the Jazz get all 5 players back, and Portland only has 2 guys up. This is a 2-on-5 for Portland. The guy with the ball for Portland drives into the paint. All 5 defenders collapse on that one guy, and he kicks it out to the one other possible outlet who gets a wide open 3 and it goes in. I think Blake Wesley was the one who actually made the 3. But that's not an effort-based thing. Everyone got back. Great job. Execution was bad. Defensively, they're doing the thing that I've clamored for since the Donovan Mitchell days. If you don't have good point of attack defenders, you have to deploy some David strategies. David being David versus Goliath strategies, right? You have to do things that are have to be a little bit more unusual. And the Jazz are saying, you know what? We can't contain the ball. So you know what we're going to do? We're going to blitz every goddamn pick and roll out there. They're sending 2 to the ball every time. They're forcing the ball handler to pass the ball. And everyone, it's so obvious this is a coaching thing. A lot of credit to the players for executing it so far, because this is an exhausting way to play defense, and it hasn't resulted in like a good defense. But the Jazz don't really have a personnel to have a good defense right now. So I really want to give them credit for making opposing offenses really work for this shit. So they're just throwing people at the ball, forcing the ball handler to get rid of it, and the next guy up knows, hey, when the ball handler gets rid of it, I have to like anticipate where he's going to throw it and go to defend it. And if that player does his job, then the 4th player has to understand, well, then if that player is rotating over there, then I have to rotate here. This sort of aggression is very easily exploitable by smart offenses and good coaching. However, if the defense is acting this way consistently and consistently has the energy up, you are going to be better than 30th. You are going to be 25th. And that jump from a nightmare Halloween defense to reliably bad defense is incredible for team production. What that results in the guys like Keyonte George playing passing lanes. Yusuf Nurkic has been great at playing passing lanes. This gigantic team that is starting ostensibly 3 center-sized players and is consistently playing 3 center-sized players as you bring in Ace Bailey and Taylor Hendricks off the bench, right? Like these very, very tall individuals. They're playing passing lanes great. And I've also very much appreciated guys like Keyonte George and Svi Mykhailiuk, who, as part of this blitzing scheme, if they are not one of the 2 players who are attacking the ball as part of a pick and roll set or something like that, they are not just, hey, I'm the next man up and I have to go cover the guy who's being left open. If they're coming from the weak side and the ball handler thinks, oh, I got to get the ball over to the guy who sent me a screen because I'm being blitzed now, they're coming over and just poking the ball away and getting a steal out of that from the backside. Those are David strategies that steal you extra possessions, pun intended, I suppose, that can give, and because the offense is going so good, those sort of extra offensive possessions can win you basketball games. And that's why the Jazz are 2-2 right now and are 3 points away from being 4-0. Guys, we lost 2 games by a combined 3 points. This team could be 4-0 right now. Chicago Bulls also 4-0, by the way. I've seen 2 of their games so far. Got to catch some more. So we got a lot of surprises around the league. Massive credit to Keyonte. One game was fun because the Clippers game was just like, hey, blowout. Everyone played amazing. Then he had a fabulous game against Sacramento. Didn't shoot the ball well at all. Lost by a point in part because he didn't shoot well. Then he has an exhausting but terrific overtime game against the Suns. The Suns were down 7 with 20 seconds to go, and they forced overtime on a litany of just a parade of horribles that ended up going to overtime. And the Jazz didn't wilt, in part because of Keyonte George still having the stamina and the conditioning and the FU energy to bring that team home. It was Keyonte. Lauri had the 51. Keyonte George had 26 and 10. I was thrilled with him. So we have the Clippers game. It's fun. It's great. But then you have the Kings game. Makes me okay. Now I'm curious. Phoenix game. Now I'm very curious. And now after tonight, where he shot 15 free throws, 8 assists, and 6 turnovers, he has my attention. This is a thing now. Isaiah Collier's out from an injury, but I don't see how he plays. Walt Clayton is doing fine as backup point guard, and he adds a shooting element that Collier doesn't. Because Keyonte George has firmly said to the other 2 guards on the roster, I got this. This is my job. I am good at this. You are still way behind me on the learning curve. The trajectory of the Jazz, we've mentioned, is highly dependent on if Ace Bailey can become a star and if Lauri Markkanen is still on the team or whatever. A rotation of a quality basketball team, you need, if not all-stars, you need a bunch of starter-level quality players to create a team. And they don't come out of nowhere. You draft those guys, especially in Utah's case. You don't typically sign those guys as free agents. Maybe you can make a Mike Conley trade. Maybe you make a Ricky Rubio trade. You can bring guys in a lot of different ways, but the best option Utah has is to draft them. And Keyonte's doing it. And I if you listen, please go back and listen to our Keyonte George player preview that we did. I said I closed the book and I have locked the book, but I know where the key is on Keyonte George. On my hope for him. I didn't throw away that key, man. I opened that book up and we are reading it. The book is open on what he can be now, once again. And it's like looking back at his preseason, maybe it wasn't a fluke. He had a 9 assist game in preseason. He had an 8 assist game in preseason. Very, very, very encouraging stuff. Lauri Markkanen, let's talk about the star of the team. And then I'll talk a little about Walker Kessler too. These are the 3 main, holy shit, new things are happening for these 3 guys. Lauri Markkanen had 51 the other night. That's a career high. His first 50-burger. Let me pull up some things for him. So, the number one thing I want to point out about Lauri is he is identifying very, very early, way earlier than we've ever seen in his Utah career, when the pressure of the defense is on him. We know he can play through contact. A lot of people have been saying oh, he's finishing through contact and he's dribbling into the rim and he's playing great. He's done that for a minute. But he's playing way faster. And what I mean by that is when he's getting the ball, he is identifying mentally where the defense is, I think with a little bit more cognizance. And if there's a double team coming, last year we would say, well, figure it out, man, and end up shooting jack up a terrible shot and see what happens. Now he's realizing, or now he has the personnel also to play around with this, so there's a whole lot of credit to go around. But in particular, he will get rid of the ball and relocate and do something else, and the team is finding him in a different, more advantageous situation later on, and then he's able to get the ball off the catch, take a couple of dribbles, and now he's at the rim with a little bit more room to grow. And he's also jacking 11 threes a game. He is flying around the court. If you haven't paid attention yet, or if you want to pull it up on a rewatch, and hopefully we get a chance next game where you can see this. This is the equivalent of like when football dorks ask you as a casual fan to just watch the offensive line. Don't watch the quarterback. Don't watch the running back. Don't watch like the routes or anything. Watch the line. Watch the offensive line. That's where the things happen. For Lauri Markkanen, watch everything that's happening when he doesn't have the ball. It will show you immediately what happens, how he's getting the ball in way more advantageous situations than he has before. And he has just enough off the dribble juice where that is terrifying for a defense. Is he going to dribble into the rim? Is he going to pick and pop for three? He's a 3-level scorer, and he's going to cause you a whole lot of problems. His main 2 issues have always been he cannot self-create from a standstill, and he does not have good passing awareness. As I mentioned at the top of this, when we're talking about the big men passing, he's being deliberately told in certain situations, this is where the ball should be going in all situations. Like find the pass in these situations. And he's now up to 3 assists per game, which is by far a career high. So he's figuring out a little bit more passing vision in a lot of different scenarios. He had one where he flipped the ball behind his back over his head to a cutting Walker Kessler, I think it was. I can't believe that's ever happened in my life. He had a ball in the post, and he had the ball, and it wasn't a no-look pass, but he has the ball in the post on, I think it was a relatively late clock situation, and he just does a bounce pass behind him to a cutter for a layup. These aren't the kinds of passes he makes with regularity in the past. And so similar to the Keyonte George assists per game, I care about seeing if this sort of passing from Lauri is going to happen all season, or are we scheming these dimes up for him? Where after a bit of scouting from defenses and after a long 82-game season, if these passes are no longer his front of mind, or if they're shut off by the defense, it's something I'm going to monitor. And as far as the creation from a standstill, we're not asking Lauri to create from a standstill this year. He's always moving. He's never getting the ball from a standstill. There will be situations, to be clear, where they'll run some sort of off-ball action and he'll get the ball on the wing and the ball stops. But then as soon as the ball stops, he makes a decision and moves. I'm talking about the very slow, hey, we have 12 seconds left on the shot clock and we're not going to run a play. We're just going to give it to you. Go do something. It's never like that. It's more the offense has done something. Lauri gets the ball. He stops and thinks for a quarter of a second and then dribbles, shoots, or just passes it and moves it along. That is advantageous for him. Very, very, very cool stuff. Now, the moment you've all been waiting for. Guys, Walker Kessler is 6 of 8 from 3 this year. Three of 4 tonight. The man is not a 75% three-point shooter, but oh my God, he's attempting 1.5 threes a game. or close to 2 threes a game. What? They look good. One of them today was a no dip three. It was he was 3 or 4 from 3 tonight, and he had one that was a no dip three off of a Cody Williams assist. That's right, Cody Williams played today. We're going to talk about the rotation to close out the show in a second here. And I've been blown away. The 2 threes against the Clippers were kind of novelties. The first one was just like he wasn't being guarded by like 20 feet. And so he was at the top of the arc and just kind of shot it. And the second one was kind of like, oh, they were blowing him out. So he attempted another one. It was cute. His threes that he's attempted against the Suns and the Blazers were intentional, and they were in important situations. Stunning stuff. To say nothing of the fact that he has 9 blocks in 4 games. Doing his usual stuff. His offensive rebounding is preposterous right now. I forgot to pull up the exact thing in front of me. How many offensive rebounds he has, but he has, it's got to be somewhere around 15 offensive rebounds in 4 games. It's ridiculous how many offensive rebounds he has. And that's the Jazz MO this whole year, by the way. That's another offensive strategy. Just crash the hell out of the boards. That's going to hurt your transition defense. So I'm not going to sit here and say, like, oh, the transition defense has to be the best in the league, because they are focusing on getting second possessions, which is helping their offense quite a bit. Walker Kessler, a big part of that. But I mentioned the assists, but the threes. I don't know how else to describe it other than this is still just a curio that we can't get over our skis about. But this isn't just he attempted 2 threes over 4 games and he made one of them or made both of them. He's attempted 8 threes in 4 games. That is a legitimate part of the offense, guys. It helps that he's making 75% of them. And I'm sure he'll finish the season at like 29 or 31% or something like that. Or maybe he won't. Maybe he'll be a 37% three-point shooter on 3 attempts per game. That'll warp defenses entirely. Give Lauri Markkanen more room to grow. We could play some non-shooters alongside someone like Walker Kessler. He's had a little bit of FU energy. He's lost a few rebounds that were very unfortunate, but he's also played against the Sabonis type, right? And Klingon had some rebounds that he poked out of Kessler's hands. So I think, he's only averaging 9.7 rebounds per game this year. A lot of them have been offensive. I think he has a few more rebounds per game in him because he's dropped a few. He's fouling way more. No real reason for. I don't think these are ticky-tack fouls. I think he's legitimately fouling more, and he's turning the ball over a ton. But he's also averaging 17 points a game. It's one of those things where we're watching the growth out of a 4th-year player. Just like what I mentioned about Keyonte George and how the Jazz become a playoff team. Walker Kessler was a nice starter. A nice starter. Defensive force. Offensively acceptable. If he becomes a very, very good starter, now you see the figments of the playoff form of the roster. To become that level of player, you gotta experiment and grow a little bit, and not just fuck around and shoot a bunch of threes and see what happens. I mean, actually push him in directions that make sense for the scope of the offense. Asking him to pass more. Asking him to shoot threes in certain situations, but also get up a healthy clip of them. Not just shoot some random ones here and there. I think his foul rate has been perhaps influenced by the blitzing scheme, where he's just kind of left on an island sometimes if help isn't correct or if the offense figures out how to get around the blitz and what to do. Like, he's kind of on an island sometimes. Like, okay, we'll figure that out. And he's, of course, he doesn't miss at the rim. He's also at like 100,000% field goal percentage at the rim this year. So definitely something I'm very excited to monitor for him. Rotation. And this is where we'll talk about Ace Bailey a little bit. Jazz have started the same 4 guys in the 4 games. Keyonte George, who's been amazing. Svi Mykhailiuk, Kyle Filipowski, Lauri Markkanen, and Walker Kessler. I pause on Svi Mykhailiuk because if you recall our preseason talk on Svi Mykhailiuk, he was the last guy I wanted to talk about. I was hoping that he would just never play. What reason would we need our 6th guard on the roster to play any minutes? And here he is starting, and not just starting, he's playing 25 plus minutes a game. He started over Ace Bailey. Kyle Filipowski starting over Taylor Hendricks. Let's talk about that in a second. Ace Bailey had some sort of nasty flu, like a 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10 flu. People were wondering if he even had mono. He was dragging ass that first game, and he was dragging ass the second game, and he was dragging ass the third game. He finally looked like he was moving around fine tonight against Portland. Made some horrible defensive mistakes, but he was moving super, like, with alacrity. A lot of speed out of him. We haven't seen that the first 3 games. And I think it was fair to say, hey, man, are you feeling all right out there? And he wasn't looking good at all. So game 1, Svi gets the start and plays good. And he played pretty good these 4 games. He's played pretty good. Against the Suns in overtime, the Jazz closed with Keyonte George. Walt Clayton closed with Svi Mykhailiuk at the 3 with Markkanen and Kessler. Svi adds a lot of the element of what I'm talking about, which is just finding additional passing and ball movement in lineups that don't have a lot of it in spades. And because Ace Bailey is sick, not ready, combination of all of that, needed Mykhailiuk to play a lot more minutes than anticipated. With Collier injured as well, it also opens up some of that. Like, if Collier was healthy, would the Jazz start Keyonte and Collier together? I'm not sure because Svi adds a whole lot of shooting that Collier doesn't have. Svi means nothing to the future of the Utah Jazz, unfortunately. He's 28, though. What I'm curious about is if I know. Do we sign him to? Yeah, we signed him to that ridiculous 4-year contract where every year was non-guaranteed. So look, he's got that minimum non-guaranteed contract that goes out for a couple years. So if he wants to be part of the short-term future, we got him. No other team's going to have him. At a certain point, I'm going to be a little mad if we're focused on winning basketball a little bit too much in favor of giving Mykhailiuk 30 minutes over Ace Bailey's 15. And for right now, I'm excusing it because I think for 2 reasons. One, Ace Bailey is just physically not ready. Like, there's something going on there that is not right. Tonight was the first. He didn't even have a good game today. And he made his mid-range shots, but I thought his shot selection was awkward and weird. But he was moving like way better. So today is the first time that I'm actually I'm gonna start the stopwatch on this whole Mykhailiuk over Ace Bailey thing. I don't think, and you've heard me talk about this. You've heard Dan talk about this quite a bit too. Minutes does not mean development, and nobody earns your minutes, or nobody's just gifted minutes. But I think in Ace Bailey's situation, there's 2 things that I think are worth kind of adding some asterisks to that opinion. One, he looked amazing in preseason and summer league. Like, he has the skills and he has the juice. This isn't like he's starting from a place of, well, we're gonna lose anyway, so might as well just give him 38 minutes and see what happens. By the way, he played 40 plus minutes in that overtime preseason game against the Spurs and looked totally good. So, like, physically, he's recovering. Like, there's something off. He's going to recover there. The other thing is, like, this ain't a normal rookie. Like, this is your top 5 pick that you think needs to actually be part of the super future of this franchise. I think you got to put him in a position to succeed. And putting him on a bench unit with Walt Clayton and maybe a starter or two and Yusuf Nurkic, whatever. Like, I don't think that's exhibiting his best skills. Especially because they're not on that second unit. They're not putting the ball in his hands either. It's still going to be a Walt Clayton kind of led offense, or in a lot of cases a Yusuf Nurkic led passing attack. I think Ace Bailey looks a lot better and can look a lot better with the starters. A lot of players do. Svi certainly looks great with the starters, right? And I don't think this is a winning recipe necessarily. But I think Ace does play with a lot more confidence and verve if he's playing with the starters. So I'm starting the stopwatch on like how long this whole Svi over Ace thing is going to last. Because what's better for everybody is that he is playing with Lauri, that he is playing with Keyonte, and not just in like a minute or 3 based on how like the substitutions work. I think you got to play him with him. We'll always say coaches see a lot more in practice than we don't. They have when you have an ostensibly good coach like Will Hardy, you kind of have to trust the development curve here a little bit. Especially as like, hey, we've seen a lot out of Keyonte George. We've seen a lot of Walker Kessler in their development curve so far. I think Ace Bailey's a little different. And I don't think you are insulting the roster in a way. I know there's some talk about like, oh, if you give him minutes, what does that tell other guys on the team? I think Ace has the personality, and I think he has the pedigree, and I think he has the skills that the actual skills that he's demonstrated in practice, in Summer League, in preseason, that if you're giving him the starting nod over Svi, it's not going to like insult the rest of the roster. And Svi should look around being like, hey, I've played well enough that, hey, I was not in the NBA not too long ago, and I have like a permanent rotation spot. Svi has played well enough to play over Collier too, by the way. Is Svi and Collier, if everyone is healthy, I don't mind if Svi is playing to help the development of Keyonte, if he's playing to help the development of Ace. Like, you can play Svi and Ace together, right? I'm just saying who is ostensibly how the starting lineup is shaking out. Svi to help Lauri Markkanen get into his spots, help Walker Kessler, right? If Collier is not able to do that with the same efficiency as Svi, I care way more about those other guys than I care about Collier, frankly. So we'll monitor the Ace Bailey minute situation. Tonight was the first night that I thought he looked physically acceptable. Another surprise, Kyle Filipowski over Taylor Hendricks. I thought Taylor Hendricks was a natural starter with a Key and Lauri and Walker Kessler, but the team clearly needs more passing on that first unit, and Filipowski is providing that. His offense has been up and down. He's missed a couple shots that I think he should have made. Because he is the worst defender out of the 5 of those, the Utah has been able to hide him on some very non-useful offensive players. But his horrible defense has been quite exposed in the past 2 games with Portland and Phoenix. He got to guard Oso Ighodaro and Ryan Dunn against Phoenix, and then Phoenix realized, wait, if we pull Ighodaro and Dunn out of the game and give more minutes to Colin Gillespie, and we're playing more of a 3-guard lineup with Grayson Allen and our forward is Rose O'Neal or something like that, Kyle Filipowski has nowhere to stand. And he's just miserable defensively. He can't do it. He can't defend at either the 4 or the 5 right now. And it's a big problem. His passing is very useful to that starting unit. And so that's why against Phoenix, Phoenix was playing a little bit smaller. So that's why Utah was getting away with Keyonte, Walt Clayton, and Svi as your 3-guard closing lineup against Phoenix. But if you need the extra defense, is Taylor Hendricks an answer or not? He hasn't been the offense destroyer that I think we're a little over our skis and hoping he would be. He's just kind of a guy out there right now. He's making record scratch mistakes on offense. He had a wide open 3 today that he overthought, didn't shoot, took a dribble in, and then turned the ball over. He isn't on top of the rim blocking a bunch of shots. I think his vertical athleticism doesn't look as nearly as bouncy as it used to. I'm monitoring the situation. That's all. I was hoping that he would be demonstrably better than Filipowski to force himself into the starting lineup. And right now he is just a forward-sized guy that you can rely on to kind of have out there as a guarding other forward-sized people. But he's not a destroyer of worlds where you can have him mash with Klingon on one end or on one possession, and then in the next possession, because of a cross match, he can credibly guard a Drew Holiday. Not happening. Not even remotely close to happening right now. He's making mistakes on both ends. Looks physically fine. His athletically doesn't look super impressive, if that makes sense. He's fluid and he's moving around okay, but he's not the terrifying athlete that we've kind of seen over the past couple years. We just haven't seen a lot of him, so we'll see where this goes from here. And yeah, dude is just getting back from a horrific injury. That's why I'm just monitoring. I'm not sitting here being like, wow, it's been 3 years, man. Where are you? He not only is the injury a hard thing to come from physically and emotionally, but also he hasn't played a whole lot of 5-on-5 basketball in the NBA in his career. He's still learning the NBA. So I'm giving a lot of leeway to him. And Filipowski came into the league kind of ready to do certain NBA things, especially offensively, or perhaps only offensively. So there's more credibility to Filipowski being out there, and Hendricks was always drafted to be raw prospect who's got to learn a whole lot about professional basketball. So that sort of mental ability to play basketball is still burgeoning for him. It's just I'm just as disappointed in him and what we've seen so far as I am with the optimism that we're suddenly seeing other places. I was just hoping to see more out of Hendricks, and we haven't seen that. And he closing lineups not having Hendricks in them is pretty stunning to me. So we'll see. I mentioned Collier's not healthy right now, but the rotation just looks good without him. Bryce Sensabaugh is only playing 19 minutes a game. I thought he would also be way, way higher. Walt Clayton's playing more minutes per game. I thought Filipowski would play 12 minutes. When I was doing my preview, I mentioned Filipowski. I can only really find 12 to 14 minutes for him, and he's around 23 minutes. And Bryce Sensabaugh is only at 19 minutes right now per game. I think, and that's after 3. These are up-to-date numbers. That's only after 3 games. That went down after today. He didn't play as much today against Portland. He's shooting 30% from 3. He's a great shooter. The number will go up, but that's his calling card right now. He's got to be the guy who comes in and, oh shit, he's shooting 40 to 50% from 3 on a night, and it's warping the defense. And he's making the same defensive mistakes as he always has. He's simply not a good defender. Jazz need his offense very badly off the bench. So hoping to see a little bit more Bryce. Filipowski's defense is going to get exposed. 3.3 assists per game, by the way, for Filipowski. I think he had a couple more assists today as well. And only 18 minutes a game for Taylor Hendricks. 16 minutes a game for Ace Bailey. We'll see how that changes over time. Those are just some like minutes allocation things I'm just monitoring just a little bit. Because at the end of the day, this is the third time I'm mentioning this. The success of this team relies on the development curve of these players that we've drafted. And if you're not seeing Hendricks take a leap, if you're not seeing Ace Bailey just shoot out of the can right out of the gate, if you're not seeing Bryce Sensabaugh get like 6 man of the year amount of minutes and shooting quality and whatever, like, okay, now you might have to think about a different trajectory. And of course, it's completely washed away and buoyed by the fact that Keyonte George looks like a starting level point guard. Walker Kessler is taking an offensive leap, and Lauri Markkanen looks like a top 15 player in the NBA rather than a top 40. And at the end of the day, this is a team worth watching. This is not your 2024 Jazz, everybody. We are having fun this year. A lot of winnable games coming up, too. So if you haven't watched a lot and you're listening to this, like, we have some winnable games coming up. Tune in. We'll have some fun. This will be a good start to the season for the Jazz. We'll see where we are in March and April, right? As far as like winning and how many wins do we need to like not lose our draft pick to the Oklahoma City Thunder. That's top 8 protected. We'll get in that on another episode perhaps where I mention the average amount of wins that the 5th, 6th, and 7th worst records in the NBA has traditionally been, and it's a lot higher than you think. The Jazz don't need to finish with 18 wins to keep their pick, guys. They can win 27, 28, 29, 30 games and be just fine. Now, if the Jazz win 35, 38, 40 games, should we? That's a conversation for another day. If we were 3-1 or 4-0, I would have a little bit more fun having that conversation. But team is 2-2 right now. They're fun to watch, and they're trying with good players. Tune in. I'm having a blast. Every single game I've had so much fun, and I hope you are too. Check out Salt City Hoops, the new website redesign. Thank you to Zarin Ficklin and Dan Clayton for figuring that out and doing some new things with the website. Looks terrific. And you'll see the usual articles up there that we love doing, that we love writing for you. And I just love getting on the horn talking about the Jazz. So I'm gonna do that more. All right. Good night, everybody. Of course, I say that as I'm recording this at night, but I'm sure you're listening to this not at midnight Mountain Time, like as I'm sitting here now. I'm gonna say good night anyways. Hit us up on all the social platforms. Respond to our drop the YouTube comments, drop Spotify comments. I think that's a thing now. We will respond to them. We will engage with you. We love talking with the Jazz fan community. That's what Salt City Hoops is for. That's why I'm doing this, is not to add another media voice that I'm not media. I'm just a guy because I want to talk about the Jazz with my Jazz fan friends and my NBA brethren. So hit us up wherever. We'd love to talk to you. All right. Salt City Hoops. I'm Mark Pereira. We'll talk to you soon.